he looks like a guy that needs a change of scenery. And if he gets in a better place, a better team, maybe not even a team as good as Milwaukee, but a team where maybe he's going to get more, run. I think he could be a pretty good player. I mean, I've seen it in college and he played at a pretty high level there. So
How are you? I'm doing well. How about yourself?
doing good. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be exciting. I'm interested. I've been watching your videos too, the 48-minute ones. So some good content you're producing there.
Well, I appreciate it. We actually are a very pro Milwaukee Bucks show. One of my partners, Russ Geiger, is a close personal friend of Giannis and former employee of the team. So we always, I mean, I myself am a Celtics fan, but the Bucks are a team that I always want to see do well. I'm even rocking their colors today,
That's
just for
right. I
you.
was gonna say you got the Buck green going for you.
Exactly.
So that's exciting. Yeah, I saw the Giannis interview too that when you guys had him on the show. Pretty cool stuff. So yeah, you're
Yeah.
you're in good company.
Oh, awesome, awesome. So, are
Yeah.
you in Milwaukee? Are you
I'm in
native?
I'm between Chicago and Milwaukee. So I'm in the middle ground right there, sort of near the border area of Wisconsin and Illinois.
Oh, good, good. Are you from that area originally, or?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, okay,
So
good.
I attend a lot of Bucks games, and that's sort of been my team, even though technically Chicago is closer.
Right.
But actually with traffic, it's quicker to Milwaukee for me and stuff. So that's been my team, and I've been doing this podcast since earlier this year. So I'm sort of
Great.
excited to talk Bucks with you and talk NBA, since this is a great time because like we are right at the training camp, literally doorstep of it. So this is gonna be a lot of NBA stuff, and I know you know your NBA too. So
Well, we try and we try and cover the whole league, and
yeah.
we're but as I said, I definitely have a soft spot for the Bucks. And it's funny, their former co-owner, Mark Lassery,
Yeah.
is actually grew up in the town that I live in.
Wow.
And yeah, he grew up in West Hartford, Connecticut, which is right outside Hartford.
Uh-huh.
And I had a chance to do some stuff with Mark when I was at ESPN. We went down there and I got to know him a little bit, and I really liked him. Great guy. I was sorry when he sold his part of the team, but Mark has got all kinds of stuff going on now. I mean, he's moved
Yes.
on and he's like, I mean, guy's a billionaire. I mean, those guys usually don't stand still for too long.
Yeah. So we're listening to or watching Bleav in Bucks here with Bruce Bernstein. Bruce, for those that are listening in, joining the first time, who haven't listened to 48 minutes or not familiar with you, can you share your bit of your background? You got a very fascinating background in sports. So if you could just kind of share a little bit of a bio on you.
Sure, of course. First of all, Jim, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk hoops with you. My
Absolutely.
my the majority of my career was spent at ESPN. I was there from the early 1980s until the very tail end of 2017. For 20 years, I oversaw Sports Center's NBA content at the NBA Finals. And then when ESPN got the contract in 2002, I was in charge of studio shows for 15 plus years until I ended up leaving at the end of 2017. Had a chance to cover, three of Michael Jordan's championships, all the Spurs stuff, the Lakers, Kobe, Shaq,
Wow.
even the Celtics back in '08, where there's a very famous picture of Doc Rivers getting Gatorade dumped on him, and I am in that photo because I was standing near the bench at the end of the game waiting for Mike Tirico, who at the time was working on ESPN radio.
Yes.
I was waiting for him to finish up doing the broadcast because we were then going to go out on the court with a camera. So I was sort of pre-positioned there, but as it turned out, here's Doc Rivers, here's me. We're both kind of looking at the other end of the court because the ball was at the other end, and Paul Pierce is sneaking up on Doc with that Gatorade. So that was actually probably my favorite moment of my career. But yeah, I
As a
mean,
Celtics fan, yeah, for sure. I
oh
mean,
my God, I mean, it's
it's
like,
a dream come true in every way.
and eventually I got a chance to work with Pierce at ESPN. He worked on the Jump, my last year.
Yes,
So
yes.
I got an enlargement of that photo, and I brought it it's fact, I had met him at the All-Star game in New Orleans that year. I said, hey, Paul, that famous picture of the Gatorade, he's there. Yeah, I got that picture hanging on the wall in my living room. I said, well, I really appreciate you having a picture of me hanging in your wall in the living room because I'm in that picture next to Doc, the most prominent person. So anyway, long career at ESPN. Have been doing this podcast, 48 Minutes, with Ross Geiger, a former Milwaukee Bucks video coordinator and close friend of Giannis, and our other guy, Michael World B. Freer, who's kind of our analytics guy. We started doing our podcast, 48 Minutes, at the end of December 2022, and we're now, I think we just finished doing our 182nd show. So we're speeding towards 200, and hopefully we'll break through that tape and keep going. So
amazing. Yeah, you will. How often do you guys broadcast the show?
Well, normally we record our show on Monday nights, and the show will drop, in the wee hours on Tuesday morning. But we're in the process of doing a project right now called the Two-A-Days, where we basically said, all right, there's 30 teams. We want to try and cover all 30 teams between now, which actually we started this a couple weeks ago, and, when the season starts. So rather than doing 148 minutes on Monday, what we've been doing is 3 shorter shows where we take one team from the East, one team from the West, and do like a 15, 20-minute show, do 3 of them, and then kind of roll them out during the week. So we've now rolled out, 9 shows. And in fact, our next taping on September 29th, one of the teams we'll be doing is the Milwaukee Bucks. So
there you go. I saw the Clipper and Bulls one, so...
Yeah, so, luckily for us, we all kind of come at it from a different perspective. Ross is kind of the coaching mind. Michael, World B, is sort of the analytics and stats guy. And I'm kind of like the fan, observer, producer type, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So we try to come at it from different angles, but I'm kind of the old dude on the show. Those guys are both younger than me, although Michael's close, but Ross is a much younger guy. So whenever there's a chance to kind of talk about the history of the game or try to connect what's happening now to like, oh, okay, what former player does Giannis remind you of? Well, he reminds me of Hakeem Olajuwon, that kind of stuff. And then I'll try and make those kind of comparisons to try and maybe see if some of the younger viewers or listeners have any interest in sort of connecting the present to the past. And that's kind of one of the things I like to do.
Yeah. No, it's fun. I urge people to check it out. It's on YouTube. I know I saw it on YouTube, so that's where I've been watching. But you also, I'm sure you have it on the audio forms too, right? Spotify, Apple.
Yeah, all the podcast platforms, probably all the same platforms that Bleav in Bucks is on, also show 48 Minutes. The YouTube channel actually isn't the 48 Minutes channel. It's actually my personal YouTube channel, but all of the shows go up on there. So, Bruce Bernstein, YouTube. Feel free to hop in and subscribe. We always like to, hear from our people. And when people put a comment in there, or if they hit us on social media and say, just so your listeners know, if you ever want us to talk about something, hit me up on social. I'm at Pure Hoops Bruce. And we'll talk about it because we'd love to try and, connect with our listeners and give you our perspective, if you care.
There you go. No, it's good stuff. I highly recommend it too. So we'll start out with the Bucks and sort of then be off season, and then we'll go into a little bit about the league into the season and see what the big storylines are in a sense. Obviously, the offseason storyline was initially Giannis, right? That was the big thing. Is he going to request a trade? Are they going to move on? Bruce, I don't know about your take. I was kind of surprised how quiet it ended up being in a sense of, Giannis is not a guy that's going to go out there and make a big fluff about anything, but it was really done internally. And this day and age in NBA, it's usually out in the media. There's usually 2 sides to the story, but there was really, you can tell, a good relationship between the Bucks management, ownership, and Giannis, where this was done sort of quietly. Like they decided, yes, we're not putting him on a trade market. We're bringing him back. And he agreed with it, and that's the direction he wanted to go with, and that was end of story pretty much. Even though the league-wide people were just anticipating what's going to happen there. Were you surprised by that a little bit, how smoothly and kind of quietly it went?
Well, Giannis has always kind of said that what he wants to see from management is that they're trying to move forward and not just have a stagnant situation.
Right.
They did that. He said that actually in the podcast we did with him a couple of years ago, which led to the Damian Lillard trade. So that kind of satisfied him. And then I think when they went out and they aggressively went after Miles Turner, I think that kind of showed him what he needed to see, which is basically, John Horst is not standing pat. He's kind of, he's trying to make Giannis happy, which is a good thing to do. I think bringing back Thanasis was another example of that.
Hmm.
Although, Thanasis is going to be closer to the end of the bench than into the rotation, but
Sure.
still, he's kind of like a security blanket. And if nothing, look, guys at that spot in the rotation rarely are major contributors anyway. So if the biggest value of Thanasis is to have Giannis feel comfortable about things and make him happy, to me, that's money well spent. And I totally agree with that. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think, Giannis seems to be very happy about the acquisition of Cole Anthony. He had some nice things to say about him a few
Yeah.
days ago. And I think that's actually going to be a good thing. But quite honestly, Jim, I'm not super high on what I'm seeing out of the Bucks heading into this season. I mean, I'm not going to say that they're going to be in the lottery. I don't believe that at all. But there's just, to me, there's just some real soft spots on this team. And, there's some unknowns. And look, it could end up working out. Cole Anthony could come out there and, be a real stud. I mean,
Hmm.
Kevin Porter Jr. could blossom. Ryan Rollins could get more experience and become a really nice player, especially shooting those threes, which he's pretty good at. So I I don't see them as like a top five team. I see them, probably somewhere 6, 7, 8 around there. And I
Yeah.
hope I'm not angering your audience by saying that.
No, we're realistic here, Bruce. I think that's right. I even have him at sort of the play-in line. It's just you got to look at the other teams in the East. How many have gotten better? How many? I mean, yes, you have some that are going to be going up and down. You're going to have probably Indiana slide a little bit due to all their injuries and losing Miles Turner, but also East is not the East of 5, 6 years ago. It's pretty top heavy. I mean, when you're looking at a team, even you would know in Boston, without Jason Tatum, that team's still going to be good and competitive because they have Jaylen Brown, who's a borderline superstar. You know what I mean? A legitimate all-star there too. So you got to look at the teams, and they have way more depth, than a team like the Bucks. It just with the Bucks, you're relying on a lot of guys, with minimum sort of contracts, smaller contracts, contributing, and playing above their sort of their baseball card, back of the baseball card. I mean, Miles Turner, we
Right.
know what you're getting here, all-star sort of caliber guy. But yeah, there's not much at the guard position. Cole Anthony could be one of those guys, like you mentioned, that could thrive because he hasn't really gotten that shot full time with Orlando or just wherever with the Grizzlies. And I think this is going to be sort of the opportunity to play full time, but there's just not that many impact players on the roster, besides Giannis and sort of Miles Turner. And the depth is the name of the game. I mean, you hope you get something from Kyle Kuzma this year that you got. You didn't get much, and it was a trade deadline move. It was a later, incorporating him, but they're gonna have to have guys to step up to even be in contention for the play-in / playoffs.
What I worry about here is like Giannis right now is at the peak of his powers. He is better than he's ever been, and I think he's still going to maintain that level for about another 2 years or so. They say
Yeah.
a peak player, their peak the a player's peak years are 28 to 32. Okay, so he's right in the middle there. He's 30. Okay, and it's unbelievable how consistent he is. I mean, 7 straight years, 2 MVPs, never finishing lower than fourth in any of those other years. I mean, it's just remarkable. So I'm concerned that, you've got Giannis and he does a little of everything for you, obviously. But one of the things that I think I disagree with the offensive philosophy on this team is
Hmm.
this. Giannis is a very good passer. We know that, okay?
Yes.
But I'm not a big fan of how much he handles the ball, bringing the ball up the court, because to me, that is going to stifle the growth of your actual point guards, whose normal job is to do that and get your team into its offense. Now, I'm not saying that Giannis can't be a creator. He's gone on record as saying he considers himself a creator. He wants to be a creator. But you can have more than one creator on your team. And when you've got guards that aren't really bringing the ball up, Giannis is, and then, oh, okay, they get the ball in their hand. Where are they going with the offense? Is it going right back to Giannis? They got to find some three-point shooters, whatever. I think I love Doc Rivers as a coach. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's a great human being. This I'm not so sure about. We'll have to see if they can, find success with Giannis basically being the point everything on their team.
Right. No, and you're right. I think Giannis will be better at the ball, you know, near the paint or near the top of the 3-point line. That's where you can kind of hand it out to him and see what he can do occasionally. But yeah, you need the point guard to sort of set up the offense, bring the ball up, and let the pieces sort of navigate and move around. When Giannis is bringing it up, he's sort of the focal point, and then you're leaving sort of the inside open. It just, yeah, it's not. And it puts more energy use for him too, having to bring up the ball and whatnot. You want to maximize his strengths, and I sometimes think he's a good ball handler for his size, but he's not a point guard sort of ball handler. We were talking about guys, like they're master point, handlers. You have Kyrie's and all these sort of guys that are just, wizards with the ball. And Giannis is good for his size, but that doesn't mean he's meant to be a guy bringing the ball up and trying to set up the offense. It's not his position.
Right. And look, how is a guy like Kevin Porter Jr., who's just 25 years old, yeah, he's on his fourth NBA team. He'd rather score than pass, I think. But again,
Right.
because he's playing point guard on a team where Giannis handles the ball, so he is not going to grow as a floor general because he's not assuming enough of those duties. Ryan Rollins, might be in the same situation. One guard on your team that I just cannot figure out what the heck's going on with, and
Mhm.
I don't understand. What is the deal with Andre Jackson Jr.? I mean, it's going to be his third season. He was
Yeah.
36 overall pick. Shouldn't he be getting more playing time? I mean, it feels like, yeah, he started like half the games last year, but he averaged like 15 minutes a game, and it's like he seems like better than that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't watch him enough, I
I,
guess.
I think the problem with this team has been sort of always development. Look at how many guys they have traded or included that were late first round picks, high second round picks. They're always the throw in and fill ins in trades too, not in a sense guys that you want to develop or keep around. Um, you know, AJ Green is a guy that they sort of developed, that they gotten, but so many of those young guys. I mean, even look back, Dante DiVincenzo. They didn't allow him to grow here. He was injured for the year that they won the championship, but then he goes off and starts blossoming. And not that they've necessarily had the best draft picks either. I think that's part of the problem too. A lot of those picks haven't really hit. There have been a lot of projects and developmental guys, not enough sort of contributor guys, which is weird because it's a team that isn't really focused on development. But yeah, that's why you kind of get into this pickle, Bruce, because you need to fill out the roster of veterans and it becomes expensive because you haven't drafted well and you don't have those not only guys to develop, but even guys to be big trade pieces, not just fill-ins. And that's sort of been the problem with this team. It's like, yes, we're drafting whenever we have a pick because a lot of times they get traded, those draft picks, but the guys have just kind of faded away. And Andre Jackson is sort of those guys, one of those guys that they're not putting much focus on developing. They're just kind of throwing him in there as a rotational guy and to help out in certain spots, but it's not a way to develop and try to maximize, a guy's potential.
He seems like a guy to me. And again, I watch UConn a lot, where I live in Connecticut. We watch,
Mhm.
a lot of UConn games. So, I remember him being a really important guy on some really good teams. And he looks like a guy that needs a change of scenery. And if he gets in a better place, a better team, maybe not even a team as good as Milwaukee, but a team where maybe he's going to get more, run. I think he could be a pretty good player. I mean, I've seen it in college and he played at a pretty high level there. So I don't know. I mean, well, they're guards in general to me. I mean, it's really just kind of like,
A lot of combo
this,
guards, Bruce. Guys that
yes.
aren't pure
Yeah.
point guards. I mean, Cole Anthony's the closest to a pure point guard they have, but you have a lot of Kevin Porter is a combo guard. He's more of a scorer, like you mentioned. So there's a lot of that on the team. These sort of fringe guys that are either shooting guard slash small forward or combo guards. There's
Yeah.
not really much of a defined position on this club with any of the spots. It's a lot of guys that are sort of positionless in a way, or are
Yeah.
they're at least here and playing that way and with not a definitive position.
Well, when they picked up Damian Lillard, he was a point guard, but also a scoring guard. But
Right.
I mean, so he'd get you 24 points and 7 assists. Those are like, high level numbers. I don't know anyone on this team that's going to average 7 assists this year. Maybe Giannis. I don't know, depending on how that works. But it just seems like a lot of mismatched parts. I mean, but not that they don't have some good guys. I mean, I'm a big Bobby Portis fan. I really like
Yeah.
him. I mean,
Great
I
energy
think
player.
yeah, he's kind of crazy. He does some knucklehead things once in a while. But I mean, I love guys that kind of come out and play with fire. I mean, if Kyle Kuzma could develop some of that fire like Bobby Portis has,
Mm.
he'd be much better off because Kyle, I mean, it's almost like his career peaked when he was 24. He got the ring with LA in the bubble year. He was 24 years old. And now when I see him out there, it's almost like he's too cool for school. He needs to be a little bit more like that once in a while.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's guys that play that position need a little bit of that fire in their belly.
I mean, the thing with Kuzma is that he needs to get that real soon because he's still on that big contract that, he got in Washington. And when that comes to an end, he's a minimum or sort of mid-level guy at best. So if he
Yeah.
wants to get another contract, and he needs to start showing what he was sort of I mean he had a lot of empty calorie points in Washington,
So
and
well
those teams.
said. So
Yeah,
well
so
said.
because like he was scoring like 20 some points a game, but it didn't mean much. But his most complete sort of game was when he was young. You mentioned rookie year when he was at the Lakers. When he won that championship, he was a pretty big key and piece for that team that they relied on. And ever since he sort of got traded to Washington, it sort of fell apart. I feel like with him, there's been no direction, no proper coaching. It was a free for all in Washington, eternally rebuilding, and no one's really in charge. So it's sort of everyone had a free for all, and they collect guys like that, the Jordan Pooles and, those volume scorers that have, a lot of flaws that they don't work on their game in other areas besides scoring. And I felt like the Bucks could have been a really good move, and especially with Doc to sort of reel him in, reteach him sort of thing, team ball and that sort of thing. Yes, it was a short year. They got him after a deadline and right in a playoff run, but I hope they worked with him over this offseason and sort of find him a role on the team, whether it be at six man or whatnot, but sort of try to, get that more complete player that he was with the Lakers, and get that sort of, just score and fling it up at any time mentality out of him. Guy can score, but he's also got some pretty good size and he's got potential to do more than just be a empty calorie bucket getter.
We I know I still kind of think sometimes of Kyle Kuzma as kind of like a young player. He's 30 now. He's not a young
Right.
player
Yes.
anymore. He's 30 years old.
Yeah.
So look, his career, I mean, he's got a real chance this year. I mean, look, he's on a team where, he's going to get some minutes. He should be, getting, scoring at least 15 to 17 points a game, given what his talent level is. So, we'll see. He's like one of those X factors on your team. You know
Sure.
what you're going to get from Giannis, You don't always know what you're going to get from some of the other guys. And, Kuzma's in that, category.
Oh yeah, if he gives them like 14, 15, 16 a game, I think that'll be really positive and without taking really bad shots too, that sort of thing. But
And get a few rebounds too. I mean, the guy is
sure.
6'9", and he's not a bad rebounder. I mean, I think his
No.
career rebounding average is like 6, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it needs to be a focus of his game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of boils down. A lot of this, Bruce, is moves that were made, and one thing you can say about Horst is that he hasn't made moves because he's made a lot of moves and been proactive. Just a lot of them haven't worked out. Now you can defend, so like I would still defend him on the Kuzma move because I think you were having a Chris Middleton who was really breaking down and was
Yeah.
never available.
Yeah.
So the thinking there was you're sort of getting off maybe I think an extra year of Middleton on the contract or whatnot that you had, and getting a little bit of a younger player here that's less injured, that isn't always injured like Chris was. So I understand some of these moves, and the Lillard move too. You weren't going to have him for this season. Now, if he had not gotten injured, I think it would have been better off to keep him over
Mhm.
Miles Turner had he not been injured. You sort of had that maybe third year or second, because a year of fully with Giannis and everything. I think it would have been better served, but that injury changed so much for this franchise.
Yeah, and look, with letting, uh, the big fella, I'm drawing a blank, the guy,
Brook Lopez? Yeah.
Lopez, letting Lopez go and replacing him with Turner. I mean, I think that's a net plus for the Bucks there, because even though Brook Lopez 2 or 3 years ago was an all defensive like second team guy, or even maybe finished second in defensive player of the year, something like that. Miles Turner, is a rim protector. He'll give you that. It's going to
Yeah.
be tough for players to get to the basket against Milwaukee. I mean, with
Yeah.
Giannis back there and with Turner, and when Portis comes in, he's not as much of a shot blocker as those guys, but
But he can rebound.
and he's big, and he takes up some space. So they're going to really, I think, given the kind of mess that they have in their guard position, they're going to really have to kind of hang their hat on their defense. But you know what? You cannot be a good team unless you're a good defensive team. So if you're going to, be really good at something, be good at defense.
Yeah, that's right. And they've had a problem with that, surprisingly, even with Giannis on the team and whatnot. They did have problem the last couple of years with giving up a lot of points. So we'll see what turns out. I just think, for me, I think they're going to ride this out and see near the trade deadline what's going on. Like I've said it on this pod, I don't think the Giannis thing is completely done, that he's like here staying and all that. I think if this team gets off to a bad start, or in 10 games under, and we're coming near the trade deadline where they're, battling for the 10th, seed or whatnot, for the play-in, I wouldn't be shocked if Giannis sort of changed his tune and be like, hey, I tried this, I gave it a shot, and it just no potential for winning here. And then the major move could potentially happen. So I wouldn't rule out that this is all set in stone. This is going to be the team to the end of the year. I think if they struggle, I think you could see that whole Giannis talk spring up again.
Jim, you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, unless this team does better than I expect them to do, which again is a lower seed, maybe even a play-in team, as you said, we
Hmm.
could be seeing the end of the Giannis era in Milwaukee. His trade value is sky high. And if
Yes.
they could deal him outside of the conference to the right team, let's say a team like Oklahoma City, who has like a bazillion number one draft picks, they could get incredible assets for him. And who knows, maybe even get one of OKC's rotation guys. They're not going to get SGA, we know that. Uh,
Right.
but is Chet Holmgren a possibility? Because if you bring in Giannis, I mean, you don't, where are you going to put Chet, And
Yeah.
Chet is an often injured guy too. I mean, he's always, when he goes up, it's almost like, is he going to come down in one piece? Even
You're
though he's
right.
super talented. I mean, so if I was Milwaukee and I was Oklahoma City, I don't know what Horst and Sam Presti's relationship is, but that's the one team that if I was Milwaukee, that I would try to make a deal with if Giannis says, because Giannis really has always kind of embraced the sort of small market of Milwaukee.
Oh,
He
yeah.
likes that. He's not a guy who has to be in New York or LA. I think he could be perfectly happy in a place like Oklahoma City, especially with a bunch of guys around him that have won. And if you put him on that team, they'll win it again.
Oh,
Probably going away.
100%.
Going away.
100%. I think that's a really good destination. San Antonio, I think, for the pieces, they have a lot of good young players. The Stephon Castles, and now you had the number two pick, that sort
Yeah.
of him and Castle sort of
Dylan
play the
Harper.
same
Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
And there's not room for that. But if you want to pair him with Wemby, and San Antonio's got
Ooh.
draft picks too, and a lot of, Jeremy Sokan, and they just have a lot of good young
Yeah.
pieces. You can get some really good pieces to really restart your team, with a lot of them with potential star potential too. So I like that route too, where you can get draft picks, but also already sort of young and players with a lot of potential too. So I think San Antonio, Oklahoma City for the picks. Those are two top destinations, small markets like we talked about, and also in the West.
And just do not trade him to anybody in the East because then you're going to have to play against him 4 times a year. Send him out west and you only got to deal with him twice.
100%, Bruce. I think that's the thing. Okay, we have 10 minutes here, so let's do some league talk right now. Perfect timing for that. Obviously, every year it just seems like the last, half a decade, some major star moves to a new team. Houston's a hot team this year, with Durant going in there and what they're, but they just lost Fred VanVleet. We talk about point guard play. VanVleet, that's a key player to that team, and he's out for the year with a torn ACL. Now, before we start training camp, that's already a question mark there with Houston. In that aspect, who do you sort of, and we had the injuries obviously with Indiana and Halliburton. Some teams already know that they're sort of out of it. Who do you sort of see as a dark horse this year and as a favorite this year in both the East and West?
Well, the team in the East that I really have my eye on, I mean, look, I feel that the pecking order in the East is going to be Cleveland, New York, and then Orlando. Orlando, to me, is a very dangerous team because they're a big physical team. You know, they have Banchero, they have Franz Wagner, Wendell Carter Jr. And they picked up Desmond Bane. Okay.
Yes.
Desmond Bane was the guy that they didn't have last year. They are a really solid team. They play good defense, are rugged, but they didn't have three-point shooting. Well, Desmond Bane not only is a 40% three-point shooter, he's a really good perimeter defender as well. So he's a really nice two-way player.
And a scorer, too. They can give him the ball in those situations where they couldn't. Sometimes Banchero's double teamed, and they didn't have that score, that sort of pure scorer and shooter. That's what he can do.
And if you give that guy, I mean, he's very capable of having, some of those like 10-point explosive quarters along the way.
Yes.
So, and he's not even all that old. He's been around. They gave up a lot to get him. I mean, they traded like 4 first-round picks, and Cole Anthony was in that deal, right? And then he ended up
with the Bucks. Hefty price for sure.
Yeah, but that's good. Tyus Jones, they picked up, very reliable point guard, never turns the ball over. So I think, that's good. In the West, I mean, look, I see it as OKC and then kind of Houston and Denver sort of neck and neck for that second, because Denver really did a nice job in the offseason, as did Houston getting KD. But, as you mentioned, Fred VanVleet is now out. They have to figure out what's going to happen there with their point guard situation. And he was, not always a great three-point shooter, but a willing three-point shooter. And earlier in his career, it was a higher percentage. But Houston's a rugged team. I mean, they played great defense. I think, with KD, their biggest need was a crunch time scorer. Jalen Green was a very unreliable scorer. He'd shoot you into a game, he'd shoot you out of a game. Kevin Durant won't shoot you out of a game. And I think he'll probably have his lowest point average probably since, first couple years of his career, but he'll be just as good because he's got other guys around him there. Alpi Şengün is a stud at center. He's like a Nikola Jokic 2.0 type of a guy, and they're going to be good. They have a good coach. The Lakers, a lot of hype around Luka.
What do you think about the Lakers? I mean, I just don't think this LeBron Luka thing is working. I think not only the alpha situation, sort of off the court thing, like I don't think LeBron's ready to concede, but Luka's taken that title already, that it's his team. Obviously, they addressed the size thing. They finally, I think DeAndre Ayton's going to be good for them. I think that's the sort of team he needs to be on. But I just think the dynamic, I really think you probably need to separate LeBron and Luka for them to move forward to sort of get that identity, because they don't have an identity. They're saying it's Luka's team, but LeBron's still there. So that sort of thing, I think, is more of a clash of personality that's not going to let them build that chemistry and potential.
The West is such a brutal conference. I mean, there are no gimmies. And look, is LeBron going to be able to keep playing back-to-back games this year? I mean, look, at his age, he probably shouldn't, okay?
No.
But LeBron is a very prideful guy. I mean, look, nobody has to explain to me how unbelievable LeBron James is. I'm one of the few people that has said, and for a number of years now, I believe when his career is over, he will go down as the greatest all-around player of all time. And I know that the Michael Jordan people think I'm tripping, and there's
Hmm.
others that think, Kareem's up there. But LeBron James has done things that nobody's ever done. But he is going to be 41 years old, before the calendar turns over the
Yes.
next year. Now, Luka, they say he played well in the Eurobasket tournament. They say he's dropped a lot of weight. That should make him a better defender. It should allow him to stay on the court more. But he's got to prove it to me. I'm not going to just
Mm.
believe it based on the fact that, he looks great. Lots of guys look great in the summer or playing in the Euro tournament, whatever. I want to see him do it night after night. And look, it's not like there aren't some good players on that team. You mentioned DeAndre Ayton, that's good, but he's been a knucklehead for most of his career.
Sure.
He's not a reliable guy. Austin Reeves is a nice player. I like him. Some of their guys, Jared Vanderbilt's a nice player. Rui Hachimura is a nice player. Dalton Connect was pretty good as a rookie for them last year. He's a nice three-point shooter.
Hmm.
But I don't see them finishing higher than fourth or fifth out west, and I think that's even a bit optimistic.
I agree with that. And, whenever I think of a team like the Bucks, like it looks kind of bleak. I just think, what the hell's going on with the Clippers? I mean, they are the oldest team probably in history of the
They
NBA.
are. They are. They
They
are.
are.
They're the
Okay, they
oldest team
actually
in
are.
NBA
With Chris
history.
Paul now, yeah. I don't get it. I mean, I know you locked yourself into that contract, and I think if I were them, I would try to find a way to get rid of Kawhi and even pennies on a dollar. I think he's holding that franchise back and has held them back for a long time. Not only you look away from the whole SGA trade, I mean, obviously that didn't turn out well. They did the right move with letting Paul George go, but I think he is just holding that franchise hostage with his demands, and you never know when he's playing or not. They cater to him too much. That's why you have this old squad because of him still there. I think even though they don't have any draft picks or anything, I would bottom out and try to get rid of him because I think they are in no man's land and sort of just held hostage. Steve Ballmer and that crew, they have a good coach and all that. But man, I think Kawhi is a guy you don't want on your team, which is kind of crazy to say.
My biggest concern about that team is that there are so many old guys. Kawhi's 34, James Harden's 36, Nick Batum is 36, Brook Lopez is 37. All right, he's on their team now. They got other guys, that are, like Chris Dunn, who's like the kid, is like 31. Okay, injuries to me is I look at that team and I say, how are they going to get through this season without having one or two? Even Bradley Beal's 32, who they just picked up. They're going
Right.
to have
Yeah.
injury issues on that team. I don't see how that's avoidable because guys that are that old get hurt. And Kawhi, you just never really know. I mean, he played well last year and all that, but I agree with you. I mean, I think they're putting like, band-aids on broken bones right now. I mean, it's not the right
Yeah.
cure for that team.
Agreed. Bruce, almost time's up. Where can people find you once again that are tuning in later or skipping through to see this?
Well,
Where can they
yes.
see your work?
Well, if you'd like to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, I'm at Pure Hoops Bruce. Our show is called 48 Minutes here on the Bleav Network. We cover the whole league. Again, we're doing the two-a-days right now. So wherever you get your podcasts, 48 minutes. I think if you Google 48 Minutes Bleav, we're like the first thing that comes up. So, good for us, I suppose. But
Nice.
yeah, we love having people, join us. We love hearing from you. We're big fans of the Bucks franchise. Like I said, Ross Geiger, my co-host, is a bleeds Bucks green, and Michael Worldby Freer, well, he doesn't like the Bucks, but he likes the Knicks and the Magic and the Hornets. So he's
Hornets. Wow.
I know. Well, he lived in Charlotte for a little while, so I think he kind of
Fair.
adopted them. I think if you scratch him, it's Knicks blue. But he's always hedging his bets. He knows that Orlando's good, so I was like, New York fan, I suppose. Anyway, but yeah, so that's where we're at. And Jim, I greatly appreciate you having me come on. I'd love to join you again as the season goes on,
Yes.
if you'll have me, and we'll talk about how some of these predictions worked out.
I can't wait. Bruce, we got to do this again 100%, and see how this rolls around and talk league and Bucks. So let's do this again.
Absolutely, anytime. Just let me know.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.